Good day and welcome to Commerce Today. My name is Darren Newbold, and with me as always is Joshua Warren, and we are here to talk about what's happening in the world of commerce and what's happening today. And today, it's all about CDPs. So Josh, I'm going to let you be the one that tells the world what exactly a CDP is and why they are essential to e-commerce success.
So a CDP is a customer data platform. It's not a CRM. It's not a DMP. It's not an ERP. It's not an OMS, WMS, all these fun acronyms we have. A CDP is exactly what it sounds like. It is a platform designed entirely for holding your customer data, and it unifies that customer data from multiple sources, online sources, offline sources, your in-store sources, and it builds out a single unified customer profile. And that's big, just because that allows you to create such better personalized experiences, better segmentation, more actionable insights. It's really core to e-commerce success.
Well, I get that, and I can see how that's important, and I'm guessing that somewhere in here you're going to answer this question that's just tickling my mind is, how does it differ from a CRM? But before we do that, I guess maybe there's some really even more key pieces of where you see e-commerce businesses and why they need this CDP.
Yeah, so there's so much more competition. It's a constant theme here on Commerce Today. Back in my day when I started in e-commerce, you launched a site, and back then, in your site header, you put the keywords that you wanted Google or Yahoo to rank you for, and they did, and that's how you got traffic.
You said Yahoo.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Not Ask Jeeves, not that far back, but now there's so much more competition. You can't just put an e-commerce site out there on the web and expect to get traffic and expect to convert that traffic. There's such a higher bar and barrier to entry. You have to be able to provide personalized experiences. Also, everyone expects an omni-channel shopping experience and for their in-store persona and data to be tied to their web data and vice versa. Customers are really expecting a very tailored experience. I'm seeing more and more where the future of e-commerce, there's been more experiments where you don't necessarily even have to search, that the homepage of the site will just personalize itself to what it already knows you want. And you can't do that without really deep data on your customers. But overall,
that's only a little bit scary.
Oh yeah. I don't get me started about Perplexity AI. Soon you won't even have to shop. The AI will do it for you. But that's a whole other episode. But this has been on my mind. I mentioned the whole thing of back when I started, you could just launch an e-commerce site and business and get traffic and be successful. And I had a great 30-minute e-commerce problem-solving session last week with a very experienced e-commerce executive. And he actually put out there to me, he said, you know what, I don't think you should even try to launch an e-commerce experience, especially if you're a retailer, without first building a CDP. And thank you, Jim. That got me thinking and realizing that we don't talk about this piece often enough. And so we are actually going to break this into 2 episodes and talk about it a lot. And we're going to start today talking about some of the top commercial CDPs on the market. Next week, we're going to talk even more about open source CDPs, which they do exist. I think most people don't even realize they exist.
Wow.
They exist. There's some good options. And then we'll talk more next week about really how to use those to power your e-commerce business.
Well, that is awesome. And it's great that you got that insight from that 30-second, kind of free 30-second Ask Josh e-commerce questions to bring that forward. So that's awesome. What are some of the key benefits? You talked about kind of the commercial side of these CDPs. So what are the key benefits that you're finding there?
Yeah, so the benefits and really the roles that the CDP plays, and this is you asked earlier, what's the difference between a CDP and a CRM? And there's some differentiation in these items. So first of all, customer segmentation. CDPs allows you to segment your customers based on purchase history, but also on behavior, on demographics. There's so much data that even with the death and possible delay of the death of the third-party cookie, there's so much demographic data out there that you can purchase about your customers and feed into your CDP. So a CRM really allows you, I look at it as a CRM is great for equipping a salesperson to really sell to a customer. A CDP allows you to equip your entire e-commerce technology stack and experience to sell to that customer. So with the customer segmentation benefits of CDPs, you can tailor your e-commerce campaigns very specifically based on that customer's behavior. So instead of, here's one or two segments or one or two versions of this email we're sending, literally every email could be personalized down to the specific recipient.
That's awesome. Well, and what about that omni-channel? Because I know you mentioned that, and that was big importance, omni-channel integration. How does that work?
Yeah, so when we're working on an omni-channel project, there's usually a POS system involved, an ERP involved, an e-commerce platform obviously involved, and it starts getting tricky of what's the single source of truth for your customer data. Like if you want to know not just the customer's online behavior or just their store behavior, but you want to combine that with their demographics. Where do you store that? Well, CDP is a natural place to put that because the CDP can integrate into all of those other systems and really power that single source of truth and create a much more seamless shopping experience. We've done this before where we just build it into the ERP or we just build it into the e-commerce platform. And you can get by with that, and that works well for some merchants. But more and more, having that centralized CDP is really the way to go for an omni-channel implementation.
That sounds amazing. I was just thinking, as a customer, it'd be interesting to go out and find out what my CDP looks like. But anyway, besides that, there's obviously the ability to have some real-time personalization around this. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I mentioned a little bit with the emails, but just throughout the entire web experience, you can have much deeper personalized recommendations, targeted offers, dynamic content, a lot of things that really aren't possible without a system that is in real time pulling in all your customer data. So it knows that some of the best ones, especially on the omnichannel level, they know in real time, hey, this user is using our app. They're in this particular store right now. Okay, let's look at their loyalty account data. Let's see if they made a purchase. Oh, they left the store without making a purchase. Let's retarget them. Let's send them in real time, maybe a text message saying, hey, 5% off if you buy something in store today. And again, that's all because this customer data platform typically is operating in real time and is pulling in this data from all these different sources, versus like an e-com platform or a ERP that might be a little bit slower to update. Also, kind of related to that, we talk a lot on the AI front about how AI is only as good as the data you can feed into it.
Right.
There are some amazing AI tools that if you have the level of data in your CDP and it's updating in real time, it is getting almost a little scary how well AI can get to know each individual customer and really personalize things in real time to them.
Wow, there's movies out there that this is reminding me of as you're walking through the store and ads are popping up. Well, we also have to do something with this data. We got to be able to bring it all together. Data unification. I know that's got to be part of this CDP process.
Definitely. So it's an ability to get not only that single source of truth I mentioned, but a complete view of the customer. So you're not looking at just their e-com activity. You're not even looking at just their activity with your brand. If you have partners that are also sharing their data with you, you're looking at their behavior across multiple websites, multiple stores, and you have it all in one centralized source of truth. And that is so powerful for sales teams, marketing teams, e-commerce teams, retail teams. Like once you get that data all in a great CDP, that's when every department's going to start asking, okay, hey, can we get access to that? Can you run some reports for us? Because it creates that really incredible single source of truth.
Well, I'm sure there's some real world examples that I know I've lived through some of this for sure. But Josh, tell us some things that you're seeing that's actually happening out there.
Yeah, so both Amazon and Home Depot have kind of led the way in CDPs. And I think this will probably become some LinkedIn newsletter articles because we don't have time to dive into the case studies today. But just seeing what they have done has been super interesting. Some of my examples I gave earlier about the in-store experience, that may have been based on both case studies I've read and my own experience shopping at Home Depot. I know Lowe's is also trying to catch up in that area as well. And one thing we haven't talked about yet that I've seen Amazon do really well is you can also use this CDP to find lookalike audiences and to find potential new customers and lower your customer acquisition costs. So once you have all of this data in a centralized place, It really, like I said, it's a force multiplier for all your teams. It's not just your e-commerce team. It's going to be your marketing team, your sales team, your retail team as well.
Wow. We'll have to come back and circle back on the lookalike process there, that group. I can only imagine. But moving ahead and continuing on, and this is going to be a 2-part episode, so we're only going to get a certain amount of it hit here today. But what are some of the leading commercial CDPs that you're finding out there?
Yeah, so I'm going to very briefly, because I have about 5 of them I want to talk about, very briefly highlight the top commercial CDPs. We'll talk about the open source ones next week. So the first one is Adobe Real-Time CDP. They kind of, just like Adobe Commerce Cloud, they really put it in the name, exactly what it is and what it does. So that is their CDP product. It is real-time. Probably the biggest strengths for it is it's very tightly integrated with the entire Adobe ecosystem. So it can power that real-time personalization at scale. It can do everything from your Experience Cloud and the experiences you're offering, the content you're offering, all the way through the Commerce Cloud piece and really doing that real-time personalization in commerce. Now, it's complex. It's big.
I'm sure.
As part of Adobe Experience Cloud, like its original target was pretty big enterprises. So it can be a little complex to wrap your head around. It can be a little pricey, especially we're going to look at one today that's targeted at SMBs. Big price gap between an SMB product and Adobe Real-Time CDP. But especially if you're already using Adobe Commerce or one of the other Adobe marketing products, definitely recommend looking at Adobe Real-Time CDP.
Interesting. Well, and then the next one on our list, to me, this is a natural because they're somewhat the king of the CRM. So tell us about Salesforce CDP.
Yep. So Salesforce, again, they love just putting it in the name. So Salesforce has a product called Salesforce CDP. You're going to notice some similarities between it and Adobe in that the Salesforce CDP is really designed for people that have a lot of Salesforce products. So if you have Salesforce Customer 360, some of their other tools, their CRM, then it integrates really well with those, especially in driving AI personalization across all of those systems. But again, can be expensive, can be complex, can be a bit of a beast to implement. And again, the main use case I see with it is if you're already using all the other Salesforce products and you want a CDP, kind of makes sense. And that's even, I know both Adobe and Salesforce, I've seen them, basically you can get a better price because, hey, you're already buying 2 or 3 of our products. We can add a 4th one at a discounted price, that kind of thing. So.
Sounds like the insurance companies, if you
bundling,
exactly. So the next one up here, this is an interesting one because I'm slightly familiar with it, but I never thought of it as a CDP. But Twilio, tell us about that one.
Yeah, so specifically Twilio Segment. So Twilio bought a CDP, and it's very simple, very flexible, very easy to implement. It is great for SMBs and for startups. So that is kind of its strong side. Now it does, if you scale way up, if your DTC brand suddenly is doing $100 million in revenue, it can start to get expensive. So the way the pricing model works for small, medium businesses, it's definitely worth looking at. As you get larger, it can price itself out even against Adobe or Salesforce.
Wow.
But you can launch it super fast. So if you're listening to this, first, I would say wait till next week's episode about the open source CDPs.
Absolutely.
But if you're like, man, I want to go launch a CDP tomorrow, Twilio Segment, you could do that. Both budget-wise and complexity-wise, you could actually get up and running probably before our next episode even comes out.
That sounds awesome. Well, another one on our list is not familiar with or haven't heard of at all, Treasure Data. So tell us about that one.
So now we're getting into the more enterprise niche corners of the market. So Treasure Data is really excellent for B2B companies. Very strong data management for the B2B use case specifically. However, it does require a lot of technical expertise to implement and support, but it works great. If you're a really large B2B enterprise, you have a ton of data, I would definitely evaluate Treasure Data.
Interesting. And the next one on our list, I'm going to go with Telium.
Yep.
If that's how you pronounce it.
So, Telium, so I talked about how Adobe and Salesforce both are very focused on their ecosystem. Even Twilio segment is basically a way to sell you more Twilio services. Telium kind of does the opposite. They're very vendor neutral. So if you want something that is flexible, that is not really tying you into any ecosystem, they can be a great choice. With that neutrality does come more complexity. Now, I do think really all of these, other than Twilio segment, you're going to have some complexity in setup. But if you need out-of-the-box integrations with existing tools across different vendors, like if you're one of those companies that's using Salesforce CRM, but Adobe Commerce Cloud and maybe some other company's product for your CMS, then Telium could be a good one to look at just because it'll have integrations into more of those platforms.
Oh, so it's kind of a Swiss Army knife. Well, what would be your guidance for our listeners, for the merchants out there, on how to choose the right CDP for them?
So I would definitely consider what your existing tech stack is and how well these platforms will integrate with it. I know like when we're doing Adobe Commerce Cloud projects, thanks to all the different API methods Adobe Commerce has, we can technically integrate anything with Adobe Commerce. But if you don't want to spend a lot of time on a custom integration, it can definitely help to basically look and say, okay, which CDPs have proven pre-existing integrations into our tech stack? Also, just look at, you have to balance, as always, complexity versus scalability. So you might be one of those large B2B businesses that you just need treasure data because your business and your data is so complex, so large, it just makes sense. But at the same time, you might be thinking, oh, we're actually, a smaller company. We're just getting started in the CDP world. So then something like Twilio segment might make more sense, at least until you scale past that point where it becomes a little price prohibitive. And that's that same balance as always on the total cost of ownership of the upfront cost versus the long-term value. Again, Twilio segment, you might be like, oh, wow, I can start for such a low price. But then when you actually look at what's it going to cost you over 2 or 3 years, especially if you outgrow it or you start getting a little too large for it, sometimes the TCO isn't there. So it can become a little bit more of a complicated decision for sure.
Wow, this has been quite a topic around CDPs and really understanding that they are essential to delivering that personalized omni-channel shopping experience for merchants. However, there is no one size fits all, and choosing the right one can be a challenge. So Josh, summarize this up for us and give us those final call to action.
Yeah, so definitely look at your current customer data strategy, see if a CDP might fit and might help you better serve your customers. Chances are it will. If you are thriving and growing as an e-commerce business right now, you are probably building out a large enough customer base that a real-time CDP especially just makes sense. If your head is spinning from all of this, I understand. Hopefully by next week's episode, we can kind of get you sorted out. But if your head is still spinning, definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Joshua Warren. You'll see a gold background behind my head on my photo. And I offer free 30-minute e-commerce problem solving sessions. Would love to talk to you if you're evaluating CDPs. Maybe you have a CDP you either love or hate that you want to give me some feedback on. I always appreciate that as well. And yeah, I'm excited. Next episode is going to be all about open source CDPs, as well as kind of how you extract more value out of using either a commercial or open source CDP.
Well, I can't wait for our next episode. Josh, this has been fantastic. Hope you all do reach out to Josh, take advantage of that time, and let us know, because we always want to hear from you. And as always, we appreciate you listening to Commerce Today. Take care.